Alright, yo, what is up, guys? It's Aqsept here. First of all, I wanted to say, quickly before we start, thanks for being patient with me. The top lane guide that I promise is gonna come out soon. Don't worry about it. The only reason why it's been such a long pause was initially because of the item changes. So I kind of wanted to rediscover Nidalee a bit, to see what builds were actually good. And then I've just been taking a bit of a break from content, as you probably have been able to tell. But guide will still come out soon. Don't worry about it. I'll try to make sure it's fairly in-depth without going too much. But either way, thanks. And yeah, welcome back to another video. Today we're doing patch 14.22 rundown. So yeah, I mean, let's see it. A lot of stuff happening this patch, to be honest. A lot of stuff has been happening a lot of patches in a row, I would say. Sometimes it just feels a bit filler, I will say that. But overall, they've been trying to make a lot of changes. Alright, let's see this though. First of all, Ambessa is coming out. I've played her 1 or 2 games so far. I played her a bit on TR99 some ones as well. I think the champion is completely busted. Her early game is not maybe the absolute strongest, but later on in the game, she's like completely OP. Yeah, I don't know. And I feel this way without having played her much, which means I feel like when you start playing her a bit, then and actually learn the champion, this is just gonna be completely OP. Yeah, I think Ambessa is really OP. And if you want to see me play it a bit more, I'll probably, if you're watching this as the video comes out, I'll probably be live on Twitch at this very moment playing Ambessa or looking to play Ambessa. So you can go check that out if you want to. Otherwise, some videos will probably come out on this in the future as well. Alright, systems. Bounties. Bounties don't show up on the scoreboard as often as they should. We're fixing that. Bounties now show on the scoreboard after 100 gold instead of 150. This is just to accommodate for the bounty changes last patch. Silent minions move speed bonus. Minions gain decaying bonus move speed. 120 move speed in the first 14 minutes. 120 to 0 move speed scaling with the game time for the first 14 minutes. Huh. Now they'll meet at the same time very early on, but that will gradually desync over time, giving more and more time for mid laners to roam its side lanes to create more actions. I mean, that was like the thing they did before, right? Like, they wanted mid laners to have less roam impact on the map in general and to lane more. That's why they did this change initially, but I guess now they've kind of changed their opinion on that a bit. They want, like, roam-heavy mid laners a bit back in the meta, but post-level 6, as they're saying here. So, interesting change. It's especially interesting because at Worlds, the champions we've been seeing mainly are, like, Ahri, Sylas, I mean, Yone, of course. Yone is really OP and Aurora as well, but, like, especially in the finals or later, it was like Ahri, Sylas, Galio. Like, these 3 were very popular. And these are all like roaming heavy champions. So I think this change is a bit interesting. And it's kind of gonna push those champions in the same into even a better spot, I would say. Yeah, so we'll see about that. What I will say is that this entire year otherwise has been dominated a lot by ADC meta. And the ADC meta is obviously, or in mid lane rather, ADC meta has benefited a lot from not roaming heavily, right? Because he just get to farm the entire game. So yeah, we'll see how much this changes. I don't think it's gonna change a lot, but probably a little bit at least. All right, Aatrox's total attack damage is nerfed a little bit. I don't think Aatrox is in a super good spot at the moment. He's not like OP or anything. He's all right. This doesn't change too much. It nerfs him slightly on level 11, level 16, but he's still gonna be a strong champion at this point. Yeah, not OP champion, not strong. Or not super strong, but like decent, right? Doesn't change too much. Not the reason why you pick him, at least. Alright, Anivia armor growth is going down, and her Q damage is also going down by AP. Anivia is like a really OP champion, but no one plays this champion, so I feel like this item is, or this change is a bit weird. Yeah, I don't know. People just don't play this champion. I think it's a good champion. Yeah, I don't know. But people are still not gonna play it, so. Total AD ratio on Blitzcrank E is up by 20%. I mean, this gives him some damage early on. This is, I mean, yeah, it gives him some damage early on, and like later on as well, for that matter. I mean, it's decent, it's not incredible or anything. It's not gonna change, once again, the reason why you pick Blitzcrank. It just helps him a little bit. Base health for Briar up by 35, same thing. This is what I'm saying, there's a lot of like filler. I feel like this doesn't do anything, it doesn't do anything, doesn't do anything, this doesn't do anything, you know? Like, it changes champions slightly. Like, for example, if you're a Briar main, there's probably gonna be some matchups that are quite close that, okay, now you actually can win in the jungle because you're gonna be that extra little bit of HP, for example. But I can't imagine this doing a lot for overall win rate, you know? For example, like, I feel like all of these changes so far are quite meaningless. Alright, Corki. Corki is really OP on the previous patch. Let's see this. Attack damage growth is down from 2.5 to 2. This is quite a bit. This is actually, I mean, 9 at level 18. I guess it's not an incredible amount, but it's a decent amount for sure. And mana growth is down by 14. This is also a decent amount. Yeah. Like, the thing is with Corki, I think Corki mid lane will be OP. Corki top lane is a bit underrated. I will say, though, I think Corki ADC is a bit overhyped. In general, it's just Corki is really OP, so you might as well play him down there as well, but it's not his best role, it's probably his worst role. And this will probably push him out a bit from bot lane, I would imagine, with him being a bit less OP, but he's still gonna be strong mid and top, for sure. Alright. Q and W damage has increased on Fizz. 10% AP ratio on his Q, 5% AP ratio on his W. Yeah, I mean, it's once again, it doesn't really do much. It's alright, but it doesn't do much at all. Illaoi attack damage down by 3 and mana growth down by 10. This is actually quite meaningful. I think 3 AD, a lot of people like laugh at this. I remember when Gnar got like buffed for 3 AD, people like laughed at it and were like, this is not a real buff. But I think people underestimate how much 3 AD is. Like, I don't know, because it gives you like on the scaling, it's throughout the entire game as well, right? Like I think, I don't know, champions that use the AD a lot. I mean, the Azir buff, for example, like a patch ago or whatever it was, like the 4 AD buff, that doesn't do a lot, I'll be honest, because Azir does an auto attack, right? Like his soldiers auto attack for him. But when it comes to like Illaoi, not exactly, but Gnar especially, like then it's quite a big buff all of a sudden, or nerf in this case. Yeah, it's a decent nerf. And the mana growth, like, Illaoi is a champion that cares a lot about mana. I think this is a decent nerf on a champion that is not played a lot, so it's a bit sad to see. Aurelia, I think Aurelia is really strong right now. I would say that to begin with. Her passive now refresh upon attacking structures. This is quite scary to an extent, this part. One, because it will allow you to attack structures faster, together with the second change, damage now applies to structure at 50% effectiveness. This makes her a lot stronger, like in the early game, by taking plates, by side laning, all of these things. And also, a lot of the time, I feel like Aurelia's, if they like get a chunk on you, you will stand on the tower and you will wait until her passive runs out, but now her passive will not run out if she goes and attacks tower. So that's a bit scary, because it means that Aurelia can probably force a lot more, like, under tower than she could before. Because before she needed, like, you need passive stacks on Aurelia to deal damage, right? So you need minions, so if you're trying to dive, often it's not gonna work. Now you can actually dive 1v1. So I feel like Aurelia right now is a really strong champion. Really underrated champion, so probably something people are gonna play more, I think. Alright. Jack's R cooldown is up by 10 seconds. His ult damage is also up or down by 50, 75, and then 100. I mean, this is pretty good nerf, I would say. Jax is in a really good spot at the moment. The ult cooldown, I mean, it matters. It doesn't matter too much, like the 50 damage as well. It's not like it's gonna change the... Like, he's still gonna be playable, but it's just bringing him down a bit from being a bit overtuned, I would say. I like this nerf. He's still gonna be good, though. Alright, Katarina E cooldown is down by 2 seconds early game, and then later on in the game it doesn't change, and her R cooldown is down by 15 seconds on the level 1, and then level 2, level 3 are unchanged. I don't think this does too much, because like she's a heavy reset champion. I think, if I'm not wrong, though, her resets are flat, right? In terms of cooldown, not percentual. So I guess the ult cooldown for early game could be quite nice in skirmishes, because maybe it means you can get 2 ults out in the early game even. Yeah, otherwise I would say this does too much. Like the E cooldown doesn't do much, because you get resets on these all the time anyways, yeah. Alright. Kayle attack speed increase. Attack speed per max stack has been increased by 0.5% per 100 AP. Yeah, I mean, Kayle is not a champion that builds a shitload of AP, so this doesn't do too much, I'll be honest. Max attack speed is changed by 0.2, or what am I saying, 2.5 then as well. Yeah, I don't think this does a lot, I will be honest. It's not completely irrelevant, but 2.5 is not like insane amount per 100 AP for a champion that doesn't get much HP. Because let's say she goes like the build you used to go. I don't know what you do right now on Kayle, but let's say you do like Riftmaker, Nashers, and Rabadons. I mean, maybe at that point you have like 300, maybe 400 AP at max. Yeah, it doesn't do that much. Like at max, you're gonna get like 10% attack speed. It's really not a lot, is it? Yeah, I like Kayle is already a champion that scales really good if you get through the early game, and most likely if you get through the early game without being completely shit on, you're probably gonna do a lot anyways, and you're still gonna do a lot, not much more than before, and you're still gonna struggle in the early game. Alright, K'Sante. Q damage decreased, E dash speed increased. First of all, K'Sante is a super OP champion at the moment. I don't know why they're not nerfing this to the ground. You can see my last video if you haven't seen that already. But I don't know, Q damage down by 10. People say this doesn't do anything. It does do something. This is what they initially hotfix buffed about him, right? So it's like, yeah, I mean, the thing is with this, like, K'Sante, Q cooldowns like really low in the early game, so let's say over a span of 10 seconds you lose 30 damage. This is actually a decent amount, right, all of a sudden. It's not gonna like nerf him an incredible amount, he's still gonna be good. It just means that I think in some lanes, like Fiora maybe Gwen, Aurelia, like matchups that are really close on if like you can get the push or not, and if you can win the early game or not, are now gonna be a bit harder in the early game. But they also compensate buffing him for it. Like, this doesn't do that much, I think, but it just seems weird. I'll be honest, that they're even like buffing him and not just flat out nerfing him. Yeah, I don't know, like, he's too easy to kite out in all out. I don't think that's true. I just think you need to play accordingly on K'Sante to begin with, in order to make sure that you have a good all-in opportunity on all out. And if you do that correctly, then you're completely chilling. I don't know. I think K'Sante is really OP. He's still gonna be really OP after this patch. Maybe he's gonna have slightly harder matchups, but it just means that you have to give prior in some lanes and you're still gonna be good later on. Yeah. Alright, Lilia. Armor growth decreased by 0.75, and her monster heal over time is now changed from based on level 39 to 54 to flat 39. I mean, she's still gonna be fine, I think, but this is a decent nerf for sure. Like, armor growth by 0.7, like, this is not bad. On level 10, it's like 7 armor, right? 7 armor is like not bad to just have like flat out. And on top of that, the healing like does do something. It doesn't like do an incredible amount, but it can for sure do a decent amount. Yeah. I don't think it's gonna like push her out of the meta or anything, but yeah. Alright. Maokai movement speed is up by 5. His base health is up by 30. His E sapling toss is changed from movement speed based on boots to linear scaling from 1 to 13. So maybe what they're trying to do here is that they're trying to buff him for jungle, I would say mainly. Especially with like this buff, and they're trying to buff him slightly for support, right? Not like an insane amount for support or anything, but they're trying to buff him a bit for support. And without trying to give him too much top lane, but I mean, this is decent for top lane as well. Like, the movement speed mainly doesn't affect top lane, right? And neither does the sapling movement speed, but the base health is always decent, right? I think Maokai top is a bit underrated. I would say that. They picked him a bit at Worlds now, which I'm happy to see. I've been playing it for a while, but yeah. I think, I mean, overall, it's just decent buffs for him, right? I don't think it's gonna bring him back, but in a sense, but he's like always gonna be decent as a jungler. I will say that. Like, he's never terrible in jungle. He's probably not going to be brought back in pro play. I think this is not enough of a buff for him for that. But I think he can always, as I said, do decent. So, Egress, or Mordecai, I'm having a stroke, bro. Mordecai's E damage decreased by flat 10 on every level and by 20% AP ratio. I really don't understand. It's Mordecai's is dominating in lower MMR brackets. So, I hate this kind of argument, right? Because we've seen it on some other places as well. Like, we saw it on the Illaoi. Illaoi is like not that strong of a champion. Mordekaiser is not that strong of a champion, right? I'm not saying they're super weak. They're like decently balanced, right? But then if you look at what happens in lower MMR, like, you can't really balance around people misplaying, right? Because that's the truth. Like, if in order for a champion like Illaoi most of the time to be good, unless she has a really good draft or something, people need to misplay against her, right? And if you start balancing her around the fact that people misplay into her in lower MMRs, it just means that she's always going to be bad in higher MMRs, which is a bit sad to see, but I guess Illaoi is also one of these champions that is kind of doomed to never be good in higher MMRs. So, yeah, I mean, I guess in that sense it makes sense, but it's a bit frustrating to see, right? Same thing with Mordekaiser. I just think Mordekaiser is not very good of a champion right now, and he's just getting nerfed to an extent, kind of for zero, I feel like. Alright, Poppy attack damage is down by 4. This is quite big, I would say. And level 1 attack speed is up a bit. So this is like just trying to nerf her support, but get her like still being decent in jungle by buffing the attack speed, right? Which should help her a bit. I think it's a nerf in top lane as well, though. Like 4 attack damage is a lot, even though it says here that they're trying to buff her attack speed to make her sustain damage in top and jungle, like a bit better. In jungle, it makes sense because her clear is not gonna be affected too much, so it's like she's still gonna be decent, right, in good spots. In top lane, I think this is a decent nerf because a lot of her like trade patterns are not like weaving in a lot of auto attacks. It's mainly going for short trades with E and Q and your buckler, right? So I don't know. I think this is a pretty good or a pretty strong nerf for Poppy, I would say. Alright, Rumble buff by 30 HP. This doesn't do a lot, to be honest. Let's go next. Q damage on Seraphine, passive scale, or AP scaling is down by 10%. I mean, this doesn't do a lot either, because it's like, I don't know, Seraphine is a champion that always scales good. She doesn't scale good, like, good simply because of her damage, because of, like, her utility as well, right? Like, her E and, CC, like, on E and ult, and then also, like, her heals and shields, right? She's still gonna be good, like, in the spots where Seraphine is good. Yeah, does it nerf her, like, AP carry a bit, or, like, mid lane a bit? Yeah, I mean, sure, but not a high, or, like, a very high amount. Maybe it nerfs her early game wave clear, which could be a bit frustrating, I guess. Alright. Shen passive cooldown is up by... I feel like Shen hasn't been nerfed, or, like, nerfed in so long. This is actually insane to see. Like, just quickly. He's strong right now, don't get me wrong, but... passive is nerfed by 1 second. Cooldown refound is higher later on in the game. Very slightly distance to do anything. The cooldown 1 second, yeah, sure, it does something, but not that much. Old Stand United, shield is nerfed, both flat, like shield is nerfed by quite a bit, especially later on, 130 later on, and scaling on bonus HP also is nerfed, and the max shield is also down by quite a bit. So, I mean, I don't think it's gonna push him out of the meta. It's not changing why he's strong or anything, for sure not. Like, he's strong because of the items right now, and he's strong because he has a map impact right in solo queue, and he's still gonna have map impact in solo queue, even though, like, his shield is slightly worse down, let's say. Yeah. Alright, Swain. I think Swain is a bit of an underrated champion, I will say that. I think even though he's a bit weak after rework, I would say, I think some numbers don't tell the whole truth. For example, I think a lot of people started playing him because he just got reworked. They wanted to try him. They don't know how to play him. He's gonna have low win rate. And also people are forcing the champion, which... Swain is a niche champion, right? Swain can't play into every comp. Swain is not a champion that can play every matchup. That's not what he's good at, right? So the fact that people are just picking him blindly and people are just picking him without knowing how to play him is gonna bump down his win rate a lot. With that being said, I think he needed some buffs. These are quite strong buffs though in general from what I've seen. Magic Resist up by 1, Magic Resist growth up by a bit as well. This helps him mainly in mid lane, I would say. Q damage is up by 20 later. This is a crazy amount. And max damage is up by 40 in later levels as well. So the Q buff is really good, I would say, to be honest. E cooldown is down by 2 seconds early on. This means that you can now max W second again instead of maxing E second if you want to do that. It depends on the lane you go, I think, but yeah, it's definitely an option. And heal per second is up by 0.25 on the ult now, scaling on your bonus HP. Yeah, overall, these are really good buffs for Swain, I think. I think Swain is one of the more underrated champions in the game right now. I don't think he's weak at all from playing him a bit, so yeah, I like him. And I think these buffs are really good for him, so... Sylas health growth is down by 7. I mean, that's 70 HP at level 10. It's a decent nerf, but it's not gonna push him out of the meta or change why you pick him. He's picked because there are strongholds in the meta. If there are strongholds in the meta, he's gonna be played. If there are not, then he's not gonna be played. Simple as. Syndra damage is down by 5% AP scale. 5% AP scaling and down by 20 later levels. I don't think this does a lot, though. I will say that. I mean, it's a decent nerf, but she's still gonna be good. Let's be honest. Udyr nerfs are quite big, though. I remember seeing our damage later levels is down by 80. Early levels is still the same. Empowered ult damage is down by 2%. Max HP on your level scaling later on in the game. And monster cap damage is also now... Oh shit, this is a lot of stats. I guess this is up, or like this is better in the early game. Is it better in the early? No, actually, it's probably not, is it? Because 400% AP ratio, if you have like one or two, what's it called, stat shards that give you AP, this is probably more than what you get now. So this is probably just an overall nerf, I would imagine, to that as well. Yeah, Udyr is overall getting nerfed. I think Udyr is really strong state right now in solo queue, and I've been seeing it every single game. Although, with that being said, I think Q-Max Udyr is not bad at all. People mainly play like the AP Bruiser variant or tank Udyr, but I think the lethality or like the attack speed Udyr or whatever, like the crit Udyr, I think that is not weak. It kind of one-taps people. I think people should play it more. Yeah, I don't know what else to say. This nerfs the Udyr build most people are going, but the other build is not bad still. Various W damage increase. On it damage is up by 3 on every single level. I mean, this is a decent buff, especially for later on in team fights. So yeah. I've said this before in the patch rundown. I wish they would just leave Varus alone for a second and just kind of let him sit in the mud. I'm kind of tired of seeing this champion in every single meta, in every single lane, all the time. I wouldn't mind this champion just not being meta for like a year. I'll be completely honest. Like, I'm not saying this will bring him back into the meta, but I think he's not that bad at the moment. He always offers a lot, and when they're like buffing him all the time, as soon as he kind of runs out on the meta, it's getting kind of boring. I'll be completely honest. Let some other champions have the spotlight, bro. Alright. Vayne, our bonus attack damage is up by 10 on each leg. This is a decent amount, I'll be honest. 10, like, she maybe gets... If she gets 10 auto attacks in her ult, that's 100 damage. And that's not counting, like, other AD ratios outside of out attacks, right? Like Q and W, etc. Yeah, this is a pretty good buff, I would say. Vel'Koz E cooldown is down by 2 seconds in the early game. I mean, this is pretty good amount, and ult cooldown is down by 20, 10, and then 0. Yeah, I think this is a decent buff. I don't know exactly how much it changes, but I feel like the E buff probably does a lot for a lot of lanes, I would imagine, where cooldowns are like you're kind of reliant on your E to peel other people off you, or maybe to give you what's called a bit more way clear at times. Could also be good. I think overall this is a decent buff. Vi shield is up by 2% max HP. I mean, yeah, it's a decent buff. It doesn't change why Vi would ever be picked, but yeah, it's alright. Alright, Warwick, lots Devious written, so Warwick is like getting a mini rework or something. Base stats, the model size is increased by 15% first of all, alright. W, mana cost is down by 15. His cooldown is down from 100 to 40 to 80 to 40. Okay. Passive spells now also trigger the attack speed when used to damage enemies under 50% health. The attack speed granted by attacks and spells now linger between attacks. Bonus from passive, 250% increase on enemies under 20%, 200% increase on enemies under 25. Bro. Ticks twice as fast while no one is hunted. Refunds 30% if no one is found by the active. Okay. No longer locks out casting while in champion combat. E Primal Howl, auto attack lockout after casting E2 is down by 0.25, and then R, I just need to read all of this. R hit radius is up by 50, new class in front now only latches onto champions in front of Warwick. Thank you for that. So what is this aiming at doing? Slightly bigger and scary, he's getting some quality of life changes that will help him have a smoother combat feel with his attacks. Additionally, we're changing his cooldown paradigm on W to make it easier to cast a scar. I feel like this doesn't do anything. Like, I don't know, this overall this change. I guess it slightly buffs like some parts of him. You know, like, I don't know, like this is nice quality of life. This is like probably a nice quality of life, especially playing against Warwick, this one. And like his W is getting some changes, but I don't think it does that much. I saw someone tweeting that they felt like he just felt clunkier now, which, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case. I feel like this doesn't do much in general. Alright, Wukong, base mana increased and W cooldown decreased. 4 seconds on W is insane in the early game, I think, because this is the ability to last max. And plus 30 mana is not bad, especially for top lane Wukong, right? overall decent buffs, I would say. Wukong is kinda just out of the meta, I would say. In solo queue, he's always gonna be decent. In pro play, he's just that one step below being meta, I would say. Like he has some decent spots that are a bit niche, but I think the 4 seconds, especially like both in top lane and jungle, to be honest, does a lot. Yeah, it just helps him trade a bit easier in top lane. It helps him have more like be able to play more aggressive and take all-ins earlier, etc. These kind of things. In jungle, it just helps in general with clear, for example, or with skirmishing. Yeah, it's an overall pretty good buff, I would say, for Wukong. Alright, items. We're shifting both opportunity and humus in ways that on the surface appear power neutral. However, players can choose which items they want to buy, so a more focused opportunity will be better for burstier assassins, and a more focused humus will be better for those who want to roam. Alright, attack damage is down by 5 on humus, but you get 4% movement speed as well. Attack damage is up by 5 on opportunity. You no longer get movement speed on this item, so it's literally just swapped around, I guess. I guess it makes sense. Yeah, that movement speed, or like humus is the movement speed item and opportunity is the damage item. Yeah, it makes sense. Like, doesn't do much. Static Shiv. Total cost is down by 200 gold. Attack damage is down by 5. Attack speed is down by 20. Electrospark remade. Your first 3 attacks within 8 seconds fire chain lightning on hit, hitting up to 5 targets, including the attack target for 60 magic damage. Increased to 85 for minions/monsters. 25 to 10 second CD, level 7 to 12. Remade. Scoring a takedown resets the cooldown on Electrospark. It's so hard. Static Shiv is a hard item to call, isn't it? Like, it's always a hard item to balance. I don't really see how this item is a better item than Kraken with this. It gives more wave clear, of course. I'm not gonna say it doesn't do that, because that's the obvious part, right? But I feel like there's so many champions that just benefit from building Kraken more than they are gonna benefit from building Static, because this is not a lot of extra damage. Maybe on certain champions where you really care about wave clear and you can potentially get a lot of resets, maybe then it could be good to build Static, but I don't know. It doesn't sound incredible to me, to be honest. It doesn't, yeah, it seems like a pretty weak item. Alright, Yuntal Wild Arrows, this item they're changing a lot. 50 gold up. Attack damage is down by 10. Crit strike is removed, but it now has attack speed. They removed the passive from it completely, but they have a new passive. On attack, permanently gain 0.2% attack, or not attack speed, critical chance up to 25%. So you stack crit up to 25% on this item now. And on attacking an enemy champion, gain 30% attack speed for 4 seconds, 40 seconds CD, reduced by 1 second on it, 2 seconds for critical strike. Yeah, it's hard to say which champions this will be good on, but potentially could be a really good item on some champions, like, to put it like that. The obvious one for me was Caitlyn, but apparently that hasn't been very strong, is what I've heard. I could see it being good on champions like Tristana, potentially. Like any champions that benefit a lot from crit chance and attack speed. Yeah, I feel like this would just be decent on, as long as they don't need to go like Static or Kraken Slayer, that is, then. Yeah, so we'll see. I think this has a lot of potential as an item, though, to be quite good on a lot of ADCs. Summoner Spell's Barrier is just nerfed flat out by 20 on every level. Alright, yeah, not much else to say about that. Smite targeting, forgiveness. I hate these kind of changes. There's one thing I hate in League changes, just as a general rule, and it's when they remove what I would call, what's it called, skill expression. Anything that removes skill expression, I don't care how small it is, I usually just don't like, unless it like actually makes the game a lot healthier. I feel like this is just something that's frustrating, but I've never heard anyone ever have this issue. Because, like, here, like, even though blah blah blah, since then, Void Grubs have been added, and it means smiting over a Grub's corpse will often target the closest living one. But when has this ever happened to anyone? No? Is it just me? I guess for Grubs, I could kinda see it if you're smite dueling. But I've never heard anyone have this issue. It just seems like a very weird change. And it's like, you let players smite dragons even when an enemy champion was overlapping with it. Yeah, like, I don't know. I just think that like these kind of changes, like I'm not a big fan. I'll be honest. Like because sometimes as well, like if you intend to smite something else, like for example, maybe you intend to smite the enemy champion while they're on Drake because Drake is not low HP or something. I don't know why you would want to do that or in which case exactly, but there's for sure some cases where you would want to do that, right? Um, then I don't know. This is just frustrating to play against. It's like I know GP has this thing where it's like if you Q a minion that's standing next to your barrel, you will just always Q the barrel, which just feels like the dumbest thing ever. Like, if I want to Q the minion, let me Q the minion. And that has been in the game forever. And those kind of things are annoying to me, how the game decides for me, just because it likes targeting forgiveness because people are bad at the game. I don't know. I just think that it doesn't fully remove skill expression, but I just think that it's such an unnecessary change, and it's like, I don't know. If you get punished by this part where it's like, you feel like you wasted smite, then you skip out of the game, bro. Like, I don't know what else to tell you. Yeah, I don't know. Alright, this is the Arcane Aram buff, new player experience, blah blah blah. Anyways, Mythic Shop rotation. Now available Sona, Malphite, Echo, and Renata. Leaving MF. Okay, anyways, I saw the Swain skin has been added. This one, Chosen of the Wolf Prestige Swain. This skin is sick, by the way. Uh, yeah, alright, that seems like it's it. As I said before, if you want to, you can go check me out live on Twitch right now as this video comes out. And if you're also interested, I do free coaching right now. You can check up in that corner, wherever it is, about free coaching. Or not free coaching, sorry. Oh my god, I'm trolling, bro. I was so used to saying free coaching because I used to do free coaching. No, I'm doing individual coaching. I'm sorry for that. You can check it up over there in the corner. I feel like I baited so many people now. About the individual coaching, I do 50% off for the first session that I do with people. So if you want to check that out, go for it. Otherwise, I have a playlist as well, where I used to coach a lot of people here. So you can check that out as well if you don't want to pay for a session. Either way, I will head off now. If you want to check me out live on Twitch, as I said, go for it. Otherwise, I hope you all enjoyed. Thanks for watching. And yeah, stay tuned for more.